All right, today I'm starting out a series of videos that tell the stories of the photos and the objects that make up the Salty Dog Saloon. That's where we're at right now. And our first episode is a discussion with Hamilton Fire Department legend, my father, Mike Sims. We're sitting in the saloon in front of the wall that's pretty much dedicated to him and all of Hamilton Fire Department. And over the years, my parents collected all kind of different things, and I have try to put up as many as I can. I still have tons of stuff sitting in a bucket. So, Dad, thanks for stopping down. For those of you who do not know this legend, this is my father, Mike Sims. He was hired on the City of Hamilton Fire Department in 1966. He became one of the first paramedics for the department in 1978. He held the position of paramedic coordinator for 5 years, and the rest of the year was on the medic unit until he retired in May of 1991. What did you do prior to getting in the fire service?
Well, I was in the Navy for 4.5 years. And when I got out, I worked for Kerfus Electric. Then I went to Coca-Cola, drove a truck. And then I went to Beckett Paper Company. And the guy that lived behind me when I lived on Carlisle with my mom and dad, Ronnie Lee, said that they was giving the test for the fire department. So I took test for the fire department, and I eventually got the job as a firefighter. Chief Gillespie hired me.
And then you didn't even finish high school, did you? You got your GED?
I got a GED in the Navy.
Navy, and that's pretty much at the time the requirements were the GED, and they had the height requirement and the vision requirement for the fire department and police department. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
You had to be at least 5'9".
So what ended up making you want to apply for the fire department?
Basically money. I was making about $4,000 a year at Beckett's, and I started out on the fire department at $6,900.
Over on the other wall, I have his and my letters stating that we've been appointed full time, and on his letter it says November 21st, 1966. Report for duty no later than 0745 hours to Company 7 at Schuler and Bender. Report to Training Officer, Deputy Chief Stanley Myers. So what was your first impressions that first day that you walked up to Company 7?
I was scared. You don't know what to expect. But when I went, everybody was friendly, and everybody introduced herself. And then they told me what I could do and what I couldn't do. They told me where I could sit, where I couldn't sit. They started explaining everything to me that I was going to be doing. And I've spent the first 2 weeks going to learn how to make a plug. One day I made 12 plugs, and I learned very fast after 12 plugs how to make a plug.
Yeah. Was Deputy Chief Myers, was he based out of that station at that time?
No, he worked uptown.
He worked uptown. But do you remember how many people got hired with you?
I think there was 4 or 5 the year that I went on. Purvis, Kramer, Burton, me. I can't remember if there was any other ones.
And was there a reason that you got detailed to Company 7, or?
They just put you wherever they needed you.
Yeah.
And I went out and worked with Lieutenant Kirsch, Joe Keller, Bunny Brim, Carl Creech, and Ernie Barnes.
There's some names right there. So besides the hitting the plug, was that all you learned that day, or was there anything else?
I learned how to do everything on the truck, but it takes time to advance up. I was the plug man on the truck. Ernie Barnes was on the back with me. Bunny Brim was the driver, and Ralph was the lieutenant. And you just learned on the job.
And that was.
And you stayed with your lieutenant, and you did whatever he told you.
And that was for a full 24, right? That was like your first day. There was no orientation. That was just.
That's it.
Welcome, kid.
Right.
So are you ready for this one, guys? So his first year monthly salary was $484 a month. How did that compare to your previous jobs?
Well, the year before that, I worked at Kerfus Electric, and I made $55 a week working my lunch hour. And then when the Coke driver came in, he told me what he made, so I went and put my application in at Coca-Cola. And then I delivered to Beckett's, and then they told me what I would make there. And I put my application into Beckett's, and I went there, and then I went on the fire department from there.
That was in '66, and pretty much 3 years later, I was born. So then I came into the world. But on May 12th, 1971, you were promoted to Life Squadsman. What did that mean for the fire department, and what station were you at?
When I made the squad, it was different. There was only one life squad in Hamilton. And they bought 2 new ones, but they made one of them car 15 with a paramedic driver, and they would make backup runs. And then they decided that didn't work out too well. So then I went on the squad with Carl Burton, and we still ran out of Company 2, and we still made backup runs. And then eventually we went over to Company 1, and they divided the city in half, and we split with Squad 1. I was on Squad 2.
Squad 2 out of Station 1.
Main Millville.
And then Squad 1 was still uptown at that time?
No, they was at the 5.
Fives at that point. Okay. So when you got promoted to Life Squadsman, that was it. You were on squad. Were you guys still fighting fires at that point?
Yeah.
So, but do you have access to all the gear? What kind of gear did you have back then?
Pretty much the same as what we got today.
Same as today. Right here. I have your stuff hanging up with some spider webs. So skipping forward a little bit, in 1975 and 1976, you started recording your runs in a notebook that contained the date, the time, location, the name of the patient, your squad partner, and the hospital you transported to. What made you start recording those runs?
Just to look back, see what things was.
I found those many, many years later, and I started recording my runs in the 90s and then stopped and picked it back up in the 2000s. Basically, those runs were a basis for writing all the book of my stories and his stories. In 1976, while you were working on Squad 2, you responded to 635 runs, with the most of them being trauma runs, followed by Squad Not Needed and medical runs. So you guys did a lot of trauma runs back then. And then for the Squad Not Needed, were you like dispatched on certain other runs? You like the gas runs?
Right. We made gas checks, CO checks, and if you got to the scene and you wasn't needed, you just put down you wasn't needed and went back.
Yeah. So back when you talked about the you were basically just starting a life squad, was the police also transporting people?
They did that early before. They had station wagons, and they would just throw somebody from a car wreck or shooting, throw them in the back of the truck and take them to the car and take them to the hospital. Once the squad got where you had 2 and all at one, they pretty much had to quit doing that for insurance purposes.
But police car ended up transporting Grandpa to the hospital, didn't they?
I took him in the police car because at that time there was only one life squad, and they was on another run.
While you made 635 runs just on one unit in one city, the most runs I ever made was working for 2 fire departments in 2023, and that was 721. And the most types of runs that I had were fire alarms. So you were always busy. I mean, it didn't matter. It never seemed like you guys slowed down at all throughout the years, even with the addition of other squads.
We kept records, and 25% of our runs were after midnight.
And you guys started at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
The first day you started, were you already fitted for your Class A's before
you had to wear your uniform back and forth to work.
So
I got measured once I got there.
But after you got that, you had to start wearing that to work every day.
Right.
Before a shift briefing.
Right. Well, we didn't have shift briefings.
No.
We just went in, sit down, had coffee, talked about what was going on. And then when everybody left, we got together If we had anything we had to go over, we would go over. We had to clean the house, the truck. And back then, anytime your truck went out and you came back in, you had to hose it and chamois it off.
And then did they have you underneath to clean it with gas?
No, well, kerosene, you did that on Saturdays.
Yeah.
You went underneath all the trucks and checked it and cleaned them.
That first time, how long were you at the sevens?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half.
And then I went to the sixes. Then I went to the fives. And then from there I went on the squad to twos.
Twos. In 1976, you were awarded Firefighter of the Year, in which they did a whole article about you in the, I can't remember what magazine that was, but
The Ohio
Firefighters.
Right.
So you were awarded the Firefighter of the Year by the Optimist Club, I think it was.
I think so.
But that same year, you were also American Heart Association CPR chairman that same year, and it states that you also taught emergency treatment of heart attack victims and did rescue breathing programs in schools. Can you talk about those programs and some of the other ones you were involved with at that time?
We taught mouth to mouth in every sixth grade class in Hamilton. And then later on, me and Ernie Fowler, a policeman, got a grant to go around and teach seatbelt safety to all the schools in Butler County. And we got paid from the state for that. And then I taught classes on my own for life-saving, because a lot of people that had heart patients in their family, some of them couldn't read. They were old. They never could read, or they couldn't take tests. And if you took a CPR class from the Red Cross Heart Association, you had to take a test. And I started a class at Hamilton High in night school, and I would have 30 people in a class, and it'd be 6 weeks. And I went over everything from medicine to the life squad, CPR, but they didn't have to take a test.
Did they get a card at the end of that?
They got a certificate from me.
Was it you and Bill Yaw that started the blood pressure checks at the firehouse?
I'm not sure who started, but you could go into the firehouse, in any firehouse, and get your blood pressure checked.
I remember also seeing something about the bike safety stuff. They did
Well,
that.
you had to get a bicycle license in the firehouse.
Yeah.
And we sold license every Saturday in the firehouses. And if you got caught doing anything wrong, you had to go to bicycle court. And it was on the radio, and the kid was on the radio, and they was getting in front of the little judge.
Where did they hold bicycle court at?
I'm not sure where they held it, because I never went there, but they had it every Saturday. And if you went through a red light on your bicycle and the cops saw you, they'd give you a ticket, and you had to go to bicycle court.
But I also remember seeing a picture of you and a bunch of other guys holding up bicycles. I guess that's when they were talking about the
That was from Operation Pumpkin.
Operation Pumpkin.
We gave all the schools 2 bicycles, the girls and the boys, and they had trick or treat at the schools, and then you had to go home instead of being on the street and wait for the call, and they would pull out the names.
Yeah.
And you had to be home to win the bike.
But the fire department or the city purchased those bikes?
They were donated by SWIN. We sent a dump truck to Pennsylvania, and they'd pick up all the bikes
Really?
and bring them back.
So when you were teaching CPR, I believe it was at the high school, that year you filmed me like at the age of 7 doing CPR. What made you come up with that idea?
People would say, I can't do the compressions, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I took the mannequin home and filmed you doing CPR to prove to people that anybody can do it.
Yeah. And once you started showing that, what kind of reaction did you get?
Too many people didn't say no anymore.
Yeah. I bet. I mean, because, of course, I was doing it the old-fashioned way with the head, neck, tilt, chin lift back then. My, oh my, how the times have changed. So, also around that time, I was the first mascot for the city of Hamilton Fire Department, Sparky the Fire Dog. So how did that all come about?
They had a costume, but they didn't have anybody. So I said, well, Brian will do it, and you did it. And lo and behold, there's a picture of you and your stepbrother, sisters, brothers. And with them as you with the Sparky Dog.
Yeah, I was pretty popular back then. Everybody wanted their picture taken with Sparky the Fire Dog.
And you got to be in the parades and go around to different
But
things.
that was all put on by, was it West Side Federal? Was
Right.
That, they did that because that was in their parking lot on Main Street.
Right.
Because they did a whole article interviewing me. It's funny because in that article it said, I wanted to be like you. I wanted to own a house, a motorcycle, and a lawnmower.
You got all three.
I sure did. So I remember the costume was like the bodysuit part of it. I think was a cow, but somehow
Looked enough like a dog.
they fashioned a tail, and then they had the rubber mask, and then I wore a fire helmet and fire boots. And it's like pretty much Dad said, hey, put this on and get out there and shake these kids' hands. So in 1978, January of 1978, you became one of the first paramedics for the city of Hamilton. How many of you guys were paramedics in that inaugural?
Somewhere in there, I think between 24 and 30.
Did they like announce that and say, hey, who wants to sign up for this? Or
Yeah.
remember?
And then we took all of our classes at Company 5 in the basement.
How long was the course?
A year.
Year long? And who taught the courses?
I'm not sure of her name. I don't remember.
Was it just like one person?
Yeah. Mary. Mary, I don't remember her last name.
Did you get like instructions from the doctors in the hospitals?
We had doctors and everybody come in. We started out with the basic EMT stuff, and then we went over to the heart stuff.
Yeah. You guys hit a lot real heavy into the hard stuff.
Right.
What kind of equipment did they give you when you first became a paramedic?
We started out with a Life Pack 1, and then, well, when I first went on, you couldn't even do CPR because we didn't have positive pressure oxygen. We had an inhalator that would breathe for you. And the first time I ever saw CPR was when Monk Thomas died in Lindenwall. There was a fireman and a cop doing CPR on him, and I'd never heard of it.
And was that during a fire?
Yeah, on Lilydale.
What were like some of the challenges of going from a life squadman to a paramedic once that unit went in service?
A lot of fights.
Yeah.
We,
Between who?
well, me and Turner and Burton was at the same firehouse, and we'd start going over rhythms and stuff. We'd argue about what they were. One would say it was one thing, one would say it was another thing. And then when we got done, Mary would straighten us out.
Was it the lady that taught you, was she a nurse?
No.
No. I think I remember you saying that a lot of you didn't get fire engines on certain runs.
Right. We didn't make, the engine companies didn't make them. And when Chief Rose was the chief, we went to him and said, Chief, you have to start sending engine companies on automobile accidents with injuries. And it took him a long time to make the decision, but they finally did. And now they make them on everything.
Who was your squad partner throughout those early years?
Carl Burton was my partner for years. And then he got cancer and had to quit, and then I had multiple. I had different partners all the time up until I got Keller, and I had him until he could retire. And then after he retired, I got Pebbles till I retired.
Yeah. They didn't have a lot of like rotating medics, did they?
Didn't have any.
No.
Everybody was permanent. You took a test to get on the squad, and you was permanently on there. You might change partners every once in a while, but
You were promoted to paramedic coordinator. Was that position in place before you got promoted?
yeah, Bill Yaw was the first.
Bill Yaw was the first.
I was the second.
That was like a 40-hour-week job.
Right.
You had your own take-home car.
No.
No, I remember.
I drove a reserve truck for a car.
For a car. I remember the Toyota truck being at the house once or twice growing up. You must have just took it home for something. So, so what ended up making you go back to running on the medic?
I miss making the runs.
Yeah, but I mean, during that time, you put some things into place, right? Some programs and stuff.
Yeah. To get them extra money, we didn't get extra money for being a medic. So I would have meetings on Saturdays for 8 hours, 4 times a year, so they could get overtime.
After you went back, you were on Squad 1 at the Company 5, right?
Right.
After that, where were your offices are for the coordinator?
I didn't have an office. I kept moving around.
Yeah.
And then later on, they was down at Company 5 downstairs with the training officer.
So in December of 1990, I got to live out my dreams of working with my dad, doing squad time for my EMTI intermediate class. Well, so we had to start IVs and look at rhythm strips and do stuff like that. So on the wall, I got a copy of the squad report that has, we had a code that we worked together, myself, my dad, and Jerry Pepple. What were your feelings when I decided to go into the career, other than the fact you were happy I was just holding the job down?
It's nice to see you follow in the line. Plus, I think it's a rewarding job, and it's a good job to have.
Yeah, I mean, for years I was always, it's Mike's son, and the only reason I got into this business was not to help people. I mean, a lot of people give that typical answer, I love helping people and this, that, and the other. I just wanted to prove to my dad I could do it, because, I mean, there's a little story offhand that he, dropped me off one day when I was a bum, not working anywhere, and said, get your ass in there and get a job. And that's exactly what I did. And from that point, I had not stopped working. So I'm glad that I had those extra little pushes. And of course, I couldn't get away with anything because he knew everybody in the city of Hamilton. I'd come home one day, I accidentally ran a stop sign. I come home one day and he's like, did you do anything today? I'm like, what do you mean? You run a stop sign over on 7th Street? I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, how in the hell did he know that? Of course, he had eyes and ears everywhere. I couldn't get away with anything. So yeah, I ended up starting following his footsteps, and I thoroughly enjoyed getting a chance to run with him. I couldn't work for the city of Hamilton because of my vision at the time, so I couldn't even take the test. But you end up retiring on May 3rd, 1991. To me, it seems like you could have still done the job. What made you finally pull the plug and retire?
I got tired of taking tests. I was taking tests on stuff I didn't do, IFSA manuals and stuff. I just got tired of it.
Is that because was at that time they kind of pulled you guys off from doing any kind of firefighting stuff?
No.
No, you guys were still doing that?
We quit doing that for 4 or 5 years before I retired.
Was it an easy choice to retire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always know when it's time. And I think you found that out when you left Fairfield.
That's it's what they say. I mean, it's not. I mean, to me, it's not an easy choice because this is all I've ever done for the most part. And I mean, I've worked way past the time I thought I would ever work in the fire department, but it's not an easy choice for me. So, but that's what they say. You know when it's time to go. So
you'll know.
So what did you do right after retirement? You were still working at I Spy.
I worked for I Spy. I worked the jail. I worked the hospital.
And I Spy, for those of you that don't know, was paramedic service for the city of Fairfield. They ran their medic service because they were basic EMTs. Who started that up?
Purvis.
John
Purvis.
And then it was mostly Hamilton and the city of Cincinnati firefighters that ran that.
Right.
And then you also worked at the jail.
I worked the jail a lot. We started the medics at the jail. Me, Ray Barger, Phil Fain, and Mike Lewis.
And then after that, you did you go back to the funeral home? Start working there?
I worked at a funeral home. Well, my first part-time job was at a funeral home at F&L then with Klaus Weigel.
Yeah.
And then after I had open heart surgery, I drew my deferred comp out for 7.5 years. And when that ran out, I was sitting there doing nothing, and my wife looked over at me and she says, "Don't you think you ought to get a job?" So I went down to Webner and got a job. And then from there, I went to the hospital, and from there, I went to Florida.
And now you're back.
I'm back.
You live right down the street from me. Yeah, he calls up one day and says, "Guess who your new neighbor is?" I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "Me. I'm moving back." So yeah, luckily, you live right down the street. So, some questions and stories for the pictures that are on the wall here. One of my favorites is the one where you're frozen fighting the fire. Who were you with there, and what was the story behind that pic?
Kenny Holland, there was 2 houses on fire on Vine Street. We was in the back with a hose just throwing water.
And obviously it was during the very frigid times.
Pretty cold.
Yeah. I don't mind the cold. I hate the heat.
Well, once you get ice and you're frozen, it's warm in there.
Yeah. So another picture of you holding up the plastic head. What class were you teaching for that picture?
That was just mouth to mouth.
That was just a mouth-to-mouth program?
Right.
And that wasn't like a full CPR, that was just teaching how to do an airway. So the picture of you putting the SCBA mask on the kid up here, where was that? What was that during Fire Prevention Week?
We'd go into schools and teach, and we always took SBA's uniforms. We'd put our uniforms on teachers, and they'd always love the teachers getting in the fire gear. And we would just tell them all about the fire department.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. And then they always, I don't know if they did it back then, but it's always like, "Okay, anybody any questions?" They start telling stories. It's like, "My mom dated a firefighter." You get all these stories. It's like, "Okay, anybody got questions?" So the picture of you and somebody carrying somebody there, what was that for? Was that you and Keller during a drill?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, they was just showing how to load somebody.
Was that a disaster drill, or was that just a regular?
It was just I don't remember why we were doing it, but it wasn't on a call.
Oh yeah, you guys got your white shirts on with ties on.
Well, anytime we went out and talked, we wore white ties and shirts.
Yeah.
And when we went back and forth to work, we wore a dress gray shirt and tie.
And you said that was mainly in the beginning just because you got free bus fare and the buses ran all over.
Well, back in the day, they worked 72-hour shifts, and you might work at one firehouse, then go to another one the next day, and if you was in uniform, you'd take your fire gear and you'd ride a bus to the next firehouse. I never did do it. That was before. That's when they was working 72 hours. In 1956, they put on the third shift, and they hired 24 people to run the third shift.
Yeah.
And they went down to 56 hours instead of 72. And you only had to work one 24-hour shift.
Yeah. One year you ended up getting, it was in the 70s or 80s that you bought the moped and rode that to work.
That's back when you couldn't get gas but every other day, and gas stations were packed up. You had to get in line to get gas and all that. So I bought a moped and I rode it one day. It was 18 degrees, and that's the last day I rode it. It was cold.
It was a good idea at first, right?
Well,
you rode it a couple times.
I could ride it for a month on a gallon of gas.
Yeah, yeah. And Mom would ride me up to school on it, and then that became my little ride around toy, because all the kids had mopeds back then. So I don't know if you noticed, but I got some Brute and some Dentine replicas up here because I always remember you wearing Brute and chewing some kind of cinnamon gum. So Big Red didn't come out till later. So, what was Brute the only thing you wore back then?
Yeah, that's sexy stuff, man.
Always had to stay fresh for the ladies while you were on the squad, right?
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, if you ever want to go back, they still sell Brute, you know that, right?
I don't wear. Once I worked at the hospital, I never wore any kind
Clyde
of
cologne anymore?
Never again.
So now on to some good questions. Is there any certain run that sticks out in your career?
I got a lot of them.
I know there's a lot of them, but what would you say the most? Is there any that sticks out the most?
It was 1 week, had an 18-month-old beat to death and crushed by a boyfriend, had a 3-year-old choked to death on a Vanquish, and a 5-year-old killed by a car, all in 1 week.
That's a rough week. Was that also the week that you wouldn't let me have a certain candy or something?
No, that was a girl that was at Jackson School, and she choked to death on a kernel of corn. So I always watch what you ate.
Yeah. So, like, going through those runs that you recorded back in '75 and '76, I know we talked about it. There was a lot of kids hit by cars, and that's because the parents told you to get out of the house and leave me alone. Go play outside. I mean, a lot of kids were playing outside. So, I mean, I noticed you had a lot of kids hit by cars back then.
Kids didn't pay attention. They run out in front of cars, in between cars.
So, obviously, with being in the fire service, what would you say was the best firefighter prank you ever witnessed?
I don't know if I can talk about that on air.
They have to kill you. I've heard some of the stories, but I mean, what would you say is probably the one that was probably one of the top-notch ones?
Mike Jackson got divorced, and he was living in his motorhome in the parking lot, and they froze the motorhome in ice. They took a hose out there and covered it in ice, and he got called for overtime the next day, and he couldn't get in his car to go over.
The one question I forgot to ask was when I would go golfing with you and all the retired firefighters and listen to all the stories, because we were talking about stories. And one of them they talked about was watching you fly off that tailboard when they were going over bumps and going in the city. What was it like riding tailboard?
Firefighters today have no idea what it's like to ride on the back of a fire truck. It's the biggest thrill you'll ever have. And I was working at Company 6, and we got a call down a house on fire on Peck Boulevard. And I'm on the back, and you can see the smoke from the firehouse, so you know it's going. And we got on Peck Boulevard, and I got my hand up on the gate and the plug wrench, and I'm holding on, and he slows down, and I think I'm going to get off. And about that time, he saw a plug closer, and he hit the gas, and I fell off and went up. And my captain said I looked like a little rubber ball bouncing down Peck Boulevard.
Closest I got was an open cab. I mean, during the riots, you guys had police officers riding with you with shotguns, didn't you?
Yeah. We had tape on the windows. There were certain areas we wouldn't go without escorts.
You are one of a generation that nobody can ever reproduce. I mean, you were in at a time where there was no paramedic service. It was a completely different new thing to do. You were the last ones to ride tailboard, open cabs, complete open cabs, the one ladder they had. I mean, there was a lot of things that you guys did that nobody else will get to do ever again.
Well, we rode the squad for years just as an EMT. And you got all the experience by taking a patient in and seeing what they was doing at the hospital. And you knew what to do. And then when we became paramedics, we could do it. And that made a big difference in our life. It made a big difference in the saving of people's lives.
Speaking of going to the hospital, I mean, the hospitals weren't what they are today back when you took people to the hospital.
When I first went on life squad, there was no ER doctors. It was family doctors, psychiatrists working extra shifts to get money. You never saw a subclavian started or anything. You didn't get good heart stuff. My dad died, and when he had congestive heart failure, and he was literally drowning, and the only treatment they had was rotating tourniquets, which don't work, never did work.
But they did
But
it
that
for a
was
long time.
that was the only treatment they had, and it didn't work. And I'd sit there and just watch him die.
Yeah. Not the thing you want to do because we're in the business of trying to save people. But you said you had a key to get into the...
I didn't have it, but the first life squad had a key because the ER wasn't open 24 hours. And the squad had a key to get in the door. And then there would be a doctor from upstairs come down.
So was there an area that was designated as the ER where people went to?
Yeah.
But when it was closed, what did they do?
You had the key, and they would call a doctor down from upstairs to come down at night.
Yeah.
And then the doctors started working 24-hour shifts.
Like when you had to call somebody to come down, did they do a lot of treatment there, or did they ship them up to one of the other floors?
No, they did the treatment in the ER.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, speaking of things that when I grew up, when they redid Mercy Hamilton's ER, again, I listened to what my parents tell me to do. My dad told me to get on the cot, keep my mouth shut, and just do what Juliana, who was a paramedic at the time, tells you to do. Mercy Hamilton was opening up their brand new ER, and I was technically the first patient. They did a little scenario where they put me on a cot. They come in, lights and siren. They pulled into the ER parking lot. It wasn't even open yet. I mean, they had all the dignitaries and everybody there, and they pull me out. I'm acting dead, and I hear somebody say, "Oh my God, it's a little kid." And they reel me in there, and they rip my shirt open. They start acting like they're taking care of me, and they said it's almost like a TV thing. Said cut, and that was it. And that was kind of like the opening day, I guess, of the ER. How did you end up? Were you a coordinator at that time? Do you remember?
No, I was older when you was older when I was coordinator.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. We lived on west side of Hamilton at that point, and back then you got all your supplies from the hospital, right?
Right.
They weren't at the firehouses, and that was that way for a number of years until way late in my career where they stopped doing that. So we'd have all kind of things at the house: tape, scissors, needles, syringes. Matter of fact, when I'd go roller skating all the time, and I'd be at the house with a needle and syringe sucking out the fluid. So I guess I was destined to do this whether I wanted to or not. So over the years, who would you say your favorite chief or supervisor was, and why?
I liked everybody I ever worked with because it's a family, and over the years we would have our family come in at the firehouse and have Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner. And we used to get together a lot. They don't do that much anymore. Yeah,
I mean, there was always the firefighters' picnics, the Christmases. Matter of fact, one of the firefighter Christmases was the year I got Kiss Double Platinum Live record. That was the greatest Christmas Eve ever. I'm pretty sure that it probably came from somebody else because Mom never gave me all that stuff. I always had to get those presents from Aunt Kathy. She was the cool one. So, I mean, you worked under quite a few different chiefs at the time.
I think
Who was chief when you started?
Gillespie.
Quite a few after that. Unlike me, for as many years as I've been at Springfield Township, I've had one chief because he started the program and he just,
I think I worked under 5 or 6 chiefs in 24 and a half years.
Yeah. You took your military time, bought that out to retire early.
Right.
So, if a retired Mike Sims saw the rookie Mike Sims on his first day in 1966, what advice would you give him?
Keep your mouth shut.
You didn't keep your mouth shut?
Well, when you go in to sit down and eat, and the guy says, "Get out of that chair, that's mine," and I go over to another chair, and he says, another guy comes in, "That's my chair, get out." I said, "What the hell's going on?" And then they told me how it would be.
Yeah.
You just sit there and shut up, and we'll let you know what to do.
Be the first one to get up and do the dishes, and the last one to sit down.
Well, no, we used to have to take Chief home. He parked his car at the Sevens, And Gillespie lived on Linda Lane, so he would always come. But he would always call and say he's coming when we were eating. And the first day I'm there, I had to take him home. And I'd never driven a car with power brakes. And I pulled out and I got to the corner and I hit the brakes and I put him up in the window. And he called back and told Kirsch, don't ever let that kid take me home again.
Did you ever do it again?
Nope.
I remember a story. It was early on. You and the lieutenant went across the street to the bar or to the shop and got alcohol.
Sometimes we had a guy deliver beer to the firehouse back when I first went on. But we didn't drink that much.
When you first started, it was obviously you got detailed to Company 7, but you were in the old 5s for a little bit, right?
Right. I worked in the old 5s, the old 4s.
9th and Heaton, where was that?
Right, just on 9th Street, was just past Heaton.
And
then I worked in the old firehouse that was on East Avenue on the squad.
And you were saying that you could be upstairs in the bunk room and snowflakes would be falling through.
Yeah, and frost would be on the inside of the wall.
And they wonder why we like to keep it cool around the house. Well, I mean, that's all the questions I have for now. I appreciate you coming down and answering the questions and trying to tell me some of the stories I didn't know about on some of these.
There's so many stories, and as you get together with other firemen and that, they all come back, and you'll sit there and you'll think of one that you didn't think of before, and you can talk for hours and just go over calls constantly.
And currently, you've been retired for how many years now? A lot more than you worked?
I started my 35th year.
35th.
And I only worked 24 and a half. But about 4.5 years military time and retired with 29.
Yeah. Are you where are you at as far as like the oldest retiree?
I think right now I'm down around 8th or 9th.
So we just lost Short.
No, not yet.
Not yet. He's not doing this.
He's at home in hospice care.
Yeah. Keep a lookout. We might start doing stories from the saloon, getting some other stories of all the other things down here in the saloon. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks.